Inspiring, educating, and at times entertaining. This is the Retirement Years Podcast with your hosts, Mary Ellen French and Dave Wing.
Hi there, I'm Mary Ellen French.
And I'm Dave Wing. And for today's episode, we're taking a look back at Season 1 of the Retirement Years Podcast. We want to pass along some kudos to some people that helped make our debut season work, and we want to share your thoughts on our podcast, and we'll share our thoughts on it as well. And Mary Ellen, it is hard to believe that since our phone call, what seems like many months ago now, we've made it through a 10-episode Season 1.
And at this point, listeners, hopefully you're hearing the fireworks that are going off in the background because we're very excited about this, the celebration. As Dave mentioned, we've got lots of people to thank throughout today's episode. I want to start with my immediate family and my two sisters. They sprinkled my seed of an idea for a podcast about retirement nearly a year ago with lots of enthusiasm and great questions until it began to grow into an idea. My daughter gave me what turned out to be a pivotal resource for Christmas 2021, and that was the McElroy's book on podcasting. I have it here. It's called Everybody Has a Podcast Except You, a how-to guide from the first family of podcasting. It's written by three brothers, Justin, Travis, and Griffin McElroy, who themselves are very successful podcasters. And we'll put a link to that on our website, theretirementyearspodcast.com. So yeah, I want to thank my daughter for that book. So reading that book gave me the belief that I could do this. I could make a podcast. It also gave me the confidence to approach Dave about being my co-host. And Dave, I have to thank you for saying yes, because I would not have done this without you.
Oh, I do. I want to thank you for asking, obviously, because it's been a lot of fun for me too. I think the listeners, if they stuck with us throughout Season 1, they do question your judgment, but not your enthusiasm and your optimism. So perhaps that's overshadowed it. And I think, isn't that nice? You'll work with that guy. I can't remember if we planned on doing this later, and I would ask you to join me in this right now, though, and that is obviously thanking anyone and everyone who took a few minutes to listen to us in this Season 1, because it's not about the numbers, but if you have people that say, you know what, I've heard it and I like this, or I enjoyed this, or that helped me understand this, that's what it's about.
It is. And we are going to get to some listener feedback later on in this episode. Just know, please, dear listeners, that this is what we live for, Dave and I. We cherish every little bit of feedback that you give us, even when it's constructive criticism. We take that and we work with that. And I hope that you've seen a progression in the quality, perhaps, or the pacing, or some of the other things that we received constructive feedback on. We really worked hard to improve over Season 1, and we are looking forward to continuing that into Season 2.
And I know, Mary Ellen, how you love when I divert from a plan. So I'll do it again. But when you mention the word quality, and just so everyone realizes this, over this first season, we still were slightly impacted by COVID restrictions, slightly. Yeah. And also there's just the timing of being able to be in the same spot at the same time. Yeah. So there's been perhaps some different quality of recording as well. And while we do our best, just know that we're trying to make sure you've got something that you can listen to without grating your teeth. But it's been a challenge, and we are growing not only as the repartee between us, but also the ability to get you a quality product. So we're trying our best, and we hope that it's the message that's the important part.
Yes,
because we certainly had no idea what it meant to put this together. And getting back to the McElroy brothers book, it was helpful because Mary Ellen made me read it too, but it was a worthwhile read, and they're funny guys, and they have many off shoots of their original podcast with their spouses and various things. It's quite funny. So I was telling Mary Ellen that I had some background in radio and in recording and producing commercials through audio, not video. But I did have to remind her that was back in the day of reel-to-reel tapes, a grease pencil, and a razor blade that you physically cut and then tape.
Yep.
to put it all back together again. So this whole learning curve of actually, it's much easier using technology. I'll say that, because you can undo your mistakes. What a great button the edit button is.
Isn't that awesome?
Yes, it saved me a few times. I have to thank my family for they have to listen to a lot of my stories, often in many different versions, on repeat, but also stories about, oh, today when we were talking about this, and some of it's interesting to them, and others they're kind of busy about their day and they're going, yeah, but they've been very good about it and taking an interest in it. And also to my multi-talented daughter who's away at school, who introduced us to the world's longest coffee break logo that she initially designed for us, and is thrilled that we have it on. And it's went through a few tweaks, but it's that idea. And there's a lot of branding that we've done with some pretty talented people this year. And Mary Ellen warns me that perhaps some merchandise on the future horizon in 2023. So be on the lookout for that.
Definitely. So yeah, speaking of merch, I mean, thanks to Alexandra Gaudet for the spot on circle logo that she designed for us very early on in our planning stages for the Retirement Years podcast. We instantly loved the vibe of the color palette and the font that she chose. And so then we gave that to our social media manager, Madison Sloan of MSS Mad Media. And she took the logo and the colors and the fonts and turned them into our beautiful album covers, and really all things branding for our social media pages. So we're really grateful to Madison for taking this on for us, as this was not in either of our wheelhouses.
Yeah. And I know I said this earlier too, that Mary Ellen and I, being both educators, working with talented young people, it kind of brings us back to what we used to do and love to do.
Yeah.
And that brings us to one more person for sure. Very talented young man, Gavin Hinton. And Gavin is not only skilled, he's very good at what he does. He's created a website for us that suits our needs. After listening to us like go on and on and on of it, we want it to do all these things, and then he gels it down into what can actually happen. But he's also been incredibly kind and patient with two retirees talking about technology. I've never felt like he's talking down to us. A few times he's had to, perhaps hold his, bite his tongue, but he's been very good with us. That's for sure. And I'm very appreciative that Mary Ellen then took the lead in posting or uploading or whatever it is you do with podcasts that allow you to hear it right now on your favorite platform. And also you can update the website now in some capacity too. And Mary Ellen and I sat through the same tutorial with Gavin, and I can't do it. So I appreciate you absorbing that and being able to do it.
You're welcome. Thanks as well to Theodora Draper, who created the original intro and extra music that you hear every week. Absolutely wonderful. Thanks also to my friend and former radio host, Joel Scott, for providing us with several intros and extras to choose from each week. We're very, very appreciative of all the different people who were excited when we asked them if they could do this or do that for our podcast, and enthusiastically said, of course, I would love to do that for you. Yeah. So anyway, we're very grateful to all of you. All right, Dave, let's dive into some personal reflections on season 1.
Okay.
You asked me to think about which episode or moment was my favorite. And that was a challenge to come up with just one. I really couldn't decide on a favorite episode. I think any episode in which we interviewed a guest was my favorite. So that's a lot of them. But my favorite moment when I looked at the entire season had to have been in episode 9, last week's episode, with my family describing what they felt was my dad's legacy. That had to be, for me personally, the most special moment in season 1.
I would agree that was very personal and very, very special for sure.
Yeah.
When I look back at the episodes from this season, a couple, I cheated a bit too on my answer because I have a tie. And again, our background as educators, we didn't want the other episodes to feel left out.
Exactly.
And episode 3, I enjoyed us talking about our fears, our unrealistic and out of proportion fears of bats. And also hearing about that there is a fear of retirement and what may be the root cause of that, but then also discussing things about how you can overcome those fears. And there's nothing really to fear, that a lot of that power lies with you. And then episode 9, back to 9, I believe it was episode 9 when we talked about, no, it was 8, sorry, episode 8, the one about giving, generosity.
Yes.
And just hearing some stories about, people doing such great things in their retirement. They're not just getting to retirement and then saying, there, I got what I needed. The rest of you, good luck. It's that urge to give back, and part of it being a bit selfish because it makes them feel good too.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that. And for favorite moment, in episode 4, the retirement of your dreams, just hearing Louise talk about going off, first of all, to be brave enough to go off to an entirely different type of country, really, like a different climate, everything very different language, and immersing herself. But it wasn't just like, she won the jackpot and she got to do it. She worked for a decade on what she felt were her responsibilities here, and had that in the back of her mind, and then went and did it. So no matter where you are, you could still do that that type of retirement, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Just on that note, a couple people that I spoke with that I want to thank, and that's Morris, who spoke to us about his research around the stages of retirement and how grief mirrors some of those stages.
Yeah.
And then Marcia, who spoke to us about her volunteer work and how that giving back to others really is sometimes the reason to get up out of bed and go on, and then to reflect back later the rewarding feel of doing that for others. And so thank you to those two individuals.
And thank you as well to the people that I interviewed. So I had the pleasure of interviewing Nancy, and Nancy's interview appeared in pieces throughout, I think, 3 or maybe even 4 episodes in season 1. It was just such a rich conversation. And I value Nancy's friendship because we always have such great discussions when we get together and talk about things. Louise, as Dave mentioned, very appreciative of her taking the time to meet with me. I'm still looking forward to going to the Dominican Republic and interviewing her in person. That is now on my bucket list.
Well, the offer's there and it's been recorded. So
it has been recorded. So I'm going to take her up on that. Thanks as well to another guest, Dean. Again, I really enjoyed my conversation with Dean, and I'm looking forward to future conversations with him and having him back on the Retirement Years podcast. Finally, obviously, my family, who bravely shared their thoughts on the legacy that my dad left. Huge thanks to them. So another question, Dave, you asked me to consider was what I'm glad I learned in season 1. And I learned a lot. And that is one of the things I think that, again, as educators, you and I are committed to lifelong learning. So I learned so much. I learned so much in the research for the different episodes. I think generally speaking, I would say what I'm most excited about is that anything is possible in retirement. And I had not viewed retirement as a blank slate of possibility until we started doing the research. Mm-hmm. And I realized, oh my gosh, like literally anything is possible. And that was so incredibly empowering. And I hope that has come across to listeners, that you get to design your retirement to look however you want it to. So for me, that was that's what I'm glad that I learned. What about you?
I enjoyed learning about, and what became a bit of the backbone of our season 1, and that's the stages of retirement, that they are real. Yeah. And that in some way you'll go through them, or you may then go back to some or whatever, but it helped me understand what I was going through. Because, you first hit retirement and it's such a relief. And then you start thinking, is there not more than this? So that was a huge learning for me. I'm grateful that we did this just to learn some of those things about, not only about what to expect, but about ourselves.
Yes.
I think that was pretty
I would agree.
Thing to learn. We did get some feedback from people who dabbled in the into the podcast and listened, and a couple things. One of them was interesting that they had suggested that where it's possible that you and I interview some of our guests together, because they enjoy the back and forth between us, and then to add in that other voice. And you and I discussed this, and sometimes it's the person may, they're a little shy about even doing it. So then to add two people coming at them sometimes is a little intimidating. And it's been challenging to physically get people together too. So there's lots of reasons, and sometimes it's just happenstance, but it's something for us to consider for sure. Mm-hmm. And then another person I was speaking with, he's an entrepreneur, to say the least. He started out in education as well, and then promptly decided that wasn't for him. And he has been a financial advisor. He's done some work in kind of like a self-help sort of thing, and health and wellness. And he was saying that after listening to some episodes as well, that it would be interesting for him, and he suggests others, to look at what retirement means to those self-employed entrepreneurs, that retirement looks completely different than to someone who maybe worked at a career and contributed to a pension or into RSPs or whatever's helped them for a financial future. What's it look like for a self-employed person, a farmer, store owner, an investor, or whatever? So that was an interesting point for sure.
That is a really good point. Yeah. We should also take this opportunity to thank the critical friends that we sent early episodes to before we launched the podcast, and asked them to give us specific feedback on pacing and content and sound quality and all those other good things. And Dave and I each chose a couple of people that we knew would be good critical friends, and we won't name them, but we want to thank them as listeners. We want to thank them for giving us that really solid feedback that helped us to shape really season 1.
I don't know, Mary Ellen, if it says more about me. On a scale of 1 to 10, I seem to have like the 8 or 9 range of my friends who seem critical. So I don't know why that is. Do you have any guesses?
There would be. Yeah, there would be.
Okay.
So other listeners have reached out to us and given us some of the following feedback. We've heard from listeners who have said that they have found our podcast quite informative with some good, practical, useful information. So I enjoyed that. Dave, there are people who think we are humorous. I know. And one person said, I'm a dad, so I like the dad jokes. Keep them in.
Oh, you know what? What did Yoda say when he saw himself for the first time in 4K?
I don't know.
HDMI.
Oh my God. The fact that you can do these off the cuff is
that was
really
for him. That was for him.
That was for that listener.
I'll stop right there, though. Leave him on a high.
Okay. All right. So we will make sure we reprise the dad joke for episodes in season 2. Another listener said that they found the podcast enlightening. So many things I wouldn't have thought of besides finances. So that was encouraging, because that is kind of why we're doing this. And another person said that they found that we've got interesting guests. So shout out to our guests.
Yes.
And I think that was it for feedback. So as we said near the beginning, we really, really love hearing from listeners. Listeners can reach out to us by email, theretirementyearspodcast@gmail.com. There is a page on our website where you can send us some feedback, and our website is theretirementyearspodcast.com. And listeners have reached out through direct message on Instagram and Facebook. So you can find us there, and you can also find us on Twitter @retirementyears. So we love hearing from you, no matter how you reach out to us. Let's thank our local library for having podcasting equipment that we can use for free as community members. Very appreciative of them. And one of the pictures that you'll see on our social media this week, you may see more than one picture, is of Dave and I doing some of our recording. So I would encourage you to visit your local library. I'm going to take this opportunity to plug your local library and check out great resources like the McElroy Brothers book on how to put together a podcast. Or perhaps your local library has high quality podcasting equipment that you can use for free. Just want to put that little plug in there for your local library.
Mm-hmm.
So for our last reflection, Dave, what are you looking forward to learning more about in season 2?
And I've been thinking about that since obviously I knew that would be the question, but I would like to learn more, because I don't think you can ever shut the learning down, on ways to keep one's mind and body healthy in retirement, because so much is going to stem from having a relative health and wellness to enjoy all the things that lie ahead, and to know what others are doing. Like, what are those examples of what people are doing that revs them up and gets them going? We touched on that through the volunteerism. That's what a lot of people really, that's what interests them a lot. And I think that's a phase that you get to as well. But, what are people doing that they that gives them that purpose and meaning in their retirement? I'd love to learn more about that for sure. What about you?
Yeah, I'm kind of along the same lines. I'm really looking forward to taking a deeper dive into wellness for retirees. So everything that encompasses, right? Physical wellness, mental wellness, spiritual wellness. And that leads me to talking a little bit about what listeners can expect in season 2. So we have decided that we are going to focus on wellness, and specifically, we are very excited to announce that our first guest for season 2 is none other than Dr. Riley Moynes. Dr. Moynes is an author. He's got several books to his credit. The 2 that are most relevant to this podcast, though, are The 4 Phases of Retirement, What to Expect When You're Retiring, and The 10 Lessons, How You Too Can Squeeze All the Juice Out of Retirement. And so those books are available on his website, the4phases.com. And Dr. Riley Moynes has a TED Talk with over 2.5 million views around the world. And he's going to be a guest on our podcast. So I would encourage you to check out that TED Talk on YouTube and check out his website as well. And that'll give you an idea of what to expect when we interview him when we're back online together in 2023. So until we are together again in 2023, I'm Mary Ellen.
And I'm Dave. And as Mary Ellen mentioned before, don't forget to check out the Retirement Years podcast website, theretirementyearspodcast.com, and come follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And we'd love to hear from you via Twitter as well. You can find us by searching up @RetirementYears. And always welcome to send us an email at theretirementyearspodcast@gmail.com. Happy holidays, everyone.
Have a happy holiday, whatever you're celebrating and wherever you are. Happy New Year. See you in 2023.
You've been listening to the Retirement Years Podcast. Original music by Theodora Draper. Web design by Gavin Hinton. Social media marketing and management provided by Madison Sloan. Find her at MSS Mad Media.